Hi, I'm Rajiv Satyal. I'm a comedian and a host. I am Indian.
And I'm American. So this show will tell the story of Indians in America.
I live right here in Los Angeles, the home of Warner Brothers, Disney, and now Funny Indian Productions. My guest picks a game, and we play it. So enjoy. What do you bring to the table?
Tell us a little bit about what the Surgeon General does.
Well, people have all kinds of funny conceptions about the job. Sure. You know, they think that one of my primary responsibilities is to stamp cigarette boxes with warning labels, but turns out I don't spend a lot of time doing that myself manually. There are two primary things that the Surgeon General does. One is to provide the public with the best possible information about health so that people can make decisions for themselves and their families. But the other responsibility has to do with overseeing the United States Public Health Service Commission Corps, which is one of the 7 uniformed services in the U.S. government, along with the Army, the Navy, the Coast Guard, and others.
So are you considered a civilian or military?
So we're considered part of the uniformed service, but technically not.
What are the most common questions people ask you when they find out you're Surgeon General?
Well, sometimes people will ask me like what I think the biggest health challenges in our country are. We get a lot of messages from folks asking me to evaluate their rashes.
Their rashes?
Yep, they send pictures.
Like actually practice medicine. As Surgeon General, for all Indian kids everywhere, you've kind of blown the curve, right? I mean, now it isn't enough to be a doctor, beta. Look, you got an Indian Surgeon General. You totally blew the curve.
Being Surgeon General has been a really fascinating experience, and I will say that I'm just deeply grateful for the opportunity to be able to serve in the position for many reasons. One of which is that I, as a clinician, practicing medicine up in Boston, I saw so much need in terms of health, and also saw that there was a great need for health education. That people were often really confused about everything from, what to eat to what kind of exercise program worked to
whether cracking your knuckles actually gives you arthritis.
And that's why 2 of my priorities as Surgeon General in terms of approach have been to, one, modernize how our office communicates.
Okay.
But second, to also go beyond just disseminating information to working directly with communities to translate that information into real change. But there are a number of health issues that we've also been focused on this year. Launched what we call a Turn the Tide RX tour, which is a campaign focused on prescription painkillers. And unfortunately, that has become a real problem in our country, where we had a dramatic increase in the amount of prescription painkillers that were given to patients over the last 15 years or so. And unfortunately, many people became addicted to those painkillers, and that's now contributed to the use of heroin and the spread of HIV and Hep C. So it's become a crisis in the country.
Why don't you put me away here? Let's see what you got.
Well, I don't want to hurt you, Rajiv,
Oh, well, I believe that you could. At first, do no harm, right? Isn't that your mantra? Oh, there it is. Okay, very appropriate. All right, there it is. How has being Indian influenced you?
Well, it's been a really important part of my upbringing, and it influenced certainly a lot of our behavior. For example, how we treat elders, came very much from Indian culture. The idea that you treat your elders with respect, regardless of whether you know them or not. But you have certain respect that you accord people as a result of their life experience.
And living in Florida, you were surrounded by elders.
So it was really wonderful to immerse ourselves in Indian culture, while at the same time recognizing full well that we were part of American culture, that we were American. And one of the things that I really love about America, that we are a nation of immigrants, and people, when they come here, they can bring their cultural heritage, and that just enriches not only their lives, but it enriches all of our lives.
There's a pride of the melting pot, I feel.
Absolutely. Yeah, when we were growing up, my parents, They always taught us that America was a very special place. You know, that this was a place that they came to because more than any other place in the world, it was one where you could rise on the basis of your merits, where people were viewed not through the lens of their ethnicity or their race or how funny their name sounded, but really based on the quality of their ideas and their willingness to work hard. Now we know that that's an ideal that America aspires to.
Sure.
And we don't always fulfill that ideal, and we have to keep persisting in that, because those aspirations, that ideal that my parents saw, that drew them to this country, those ideals that they inspired us with as when we were children, those are worth fighting for. They're very powerful ideals. And in this day and age, in the age of sort of digital media, when something happens in one part of the country, 30 years ago it may have been isolated, maybe only a small group of people knew about it. Now it spreads across the entire country. So when we have acts of discrimination that take place in LA, the entire country may feel the reverberations of that. It creates almost a collective national trauma. And so in that sense, it's actually sometimes a little hard to gauge our progress, because if you look at the number of incidents, while they may be, for example, going down in some respects, you may find the coverage of them
Is amplified.
And so people feel the trauma even more. We can't move forward quickly enough, because when we still have folks who are experiencing that kind of discrimination, it takes a toll, not just on their lives,
Sure.
but it takes a toll on all of us, because those examples remain as a reminder that we have not yet fulfilled that ideal. And if we truly believe that we are a nation where people care about each other, where our welfare is deeply connected to the welfare of those around us, then that means that we cannot prosper and be truly fulfilled if others aren't being treated well, if they are not being allowed to prosper as well. That idea of our collective outcome, of our collective prosperity, to me, that's a core part of the American dream.
Do you have a Groundhog Day, some day that you wish you could live over and over again, whether it's a day or a moment, something in your life where you go, wow, that was really fantastic, I could live that over and over again?
Well, I recently had my Groundhog Day, and that was actually the day my son was born.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
He's almost 11 weeks old now.
Wow.
But I think about that day that he was born, and it was just such an incredibly exciting day for us, and full of everything from excitement and anticipation to fear and anxiety as we realized that this new being was coming into the world, and that we were responsible for making sure that he was cared for the rest of his life.
And if only he had a better household. I mean, 2 doctors. I mean, I can understand the stress. Me, I would be scared, a comedian as a father, but really.
I'll tell you that for my wife Alice and me, when we found out that we were pregnant, from that moment onward, it felt like our thinking about everything changed. And we felt even more responsibility to do whatever we could to make sure that our son was being born into a world that would be nurturing and that would support him. So I think that love is actually our most true instinct and our most true value. And in our most intense moments, the moments that matter the most, we come back to that. But we often live much of our life disconnected from that value, which is when I think we run into trouble. I think it's when we lose our sense of direction and our sense of self. I believe that everyone needs an anchor. They need something that they can hold on to that reminds them of who they really are, that brings them back to that place of love. And it's going to be different for each person. For some folks, it might be someone in your life. Like for my wife Alice and me, like our son reminds us of pure love. That's all he's experienced in his life. It's what he reminds us to try to demonstrate and live day to day when we head to work. So he's that reminder for us. For some people, it's a meditation practice. I meditate every morning, and that's my time to remember who I want to be, when I go out into the world.
Right.
But if we don't have them, then I think we end up living our lives at the whim of circumstance. And circumstance can pull us in all different directions, whether it's somebody who gets us upset in traffic, or whether it's world events that upset us, or a headline.
If you hit your knee on something near the bed,
If
and
you
you
hit
lose
your
your
knee.
voice from screaming. If I were to ask you what drives you, would it be love, compassion, courage? Those are the things. Those are the ideals for which you strive.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the most important of those is love, because when I live in that space, and I feel really good. And the times when I'm not living in that space make me realize that, gosh, I have more work to do. But it's like when you've had I often tell people, when you've fallen in love with someone, you know what love is like.
Yeah.
And then every relationship that you're engaged in afterward, you're asking yourself, does this feel like how I felt like when I was truly in love?
Right. I mean, we're married, so we have to say that we've only really been in love once. But yeah, I know what you're saying. You fall in love, you go, I guess I never felt that before. Just for the record, ladies. Yeah.
It's true. So for me also, I've had these moments in my life where I have operated from a space of love, and that's given me clarity, it's given me courage, and it's allowed me to do a lot in the way of contribution.
Sure.
And I want to be there all the time, ideally. So that's what keeps me going. That's what I strive for.
What would be your words of advice to the kids out there, or even the adults out there?
I don't know that my advice is any more valuable than anyone else's, but I'll share one thing that I wish I had known when I was younger as a kid.
Sure.
I wish I had known that the most important subject that I would ever study in life would actually be myself. And I don't mean this in a selfish way, but what I mean is that our ability to understand ourselves, what makes us tick, what gives us joy, what incites fear, what creates anxiety, those are really important things to understand if we want to live life in a really fulfilling way. For so many people, including myself, at various points in our life, we get in our own way. We obstruct, our own progress. We don't take advantage of opportunities because we're scared or we're angry, or feelings of jealousy may rob us of the opportunity to get great joy from relationships and friendships with folks around us. So our ability to get out of our own way is predicated on our ability to understand ourselves. We live in a world that's very externalized, where people are taught to focus a lot on what's going on with other people and to use what's happening with others as a yardstick of progress for themselves. But I do think that our most important indicator of progress is usually our own intuition and our instinct, but we have to know ourselves. And so the time that we spend reflecting and trying to figure out who we are, the time we spend ensuring that we can come from a place of love and not from a place of fear, I think that is some of the best time that we could spend. And it's especially important right now, because I believe, looking at our world, that we are locked in this struggle between love and fear.
I agree.
And there are times when it feels that fear is winning out. But I don't believe that that's where most people want to be. I don't think that's where they want the world to be. Love manifests as compassion, as generosity, as kindness, as courage. Fear often manifests as anger and jealousy, and sometimes just outright fear. And I want my young boy to be brought up in a world that's fueled by love. I want all kids in our country, and all adults for that matter, to be able to prosper in a society that's informed and guided by love. But that can only happen if we all put our thumbs on the scale and tilt the balance towards love. And that's what I see as the most important work that I have to do as an individual, as an American, as a member of global society, is to do what I can to tip that balance towards love so we can live in a society that we all deserve, one where there is peace and prosperity for everyone.
I really do appreciate your joining us and enlightening us with your knowledge. You said that you don't know if your opinion is worth more than anyone else's, but that's some of the most inspiring stuff I've heard in quite a while.
Thank you so much, Rajiv. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I'll play ping pong with you anytime.
I'll take you up on that, Doctor. Thank you very much.
Next week on What Do You Bring to the Table? Give me the numbers. Give me the numbers of Billboard Awards, because we're sitting here. No, I want to embarrass you out the gate. This is good, because we're going to play Jenga. I'm probably going to get embarrassed doing that. Just
Well,
so many.
I've been lucky. I've had a lot of success in what my passion is. So I don't know numbers. I've sold like 300 million records in total.